Good evening, Music Columbus people. Hi, I'm Bruce Garfield, and I'm the Executive Director of the Columbus Music Commission. Welcome to the first Music Monday of 2022. We have some wonderful guests this evening. Our first guest is Jenna Rosenberg. She's a VP of Digital Marketing at Atlantic Records. Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
She's been an invaluable part of Atlantic for almost 10 years, though she doesn't look like she's been there for 10 years. And she works with artists like Bruno Mars and Kelly Clarkson, Weezer, Ed Sheeran, and basically the whole roster. In addition, she leads a team of digital marketers and handles partner management for a few different platforms, including TikTok. And joining Jenna tonight, we have Forrest Blakk. Forrest is an artist, a gold-selling artist, who Jenna has been working with over the past few years, also obviously signed to Atlantic Records. Welcome, Jenna. Welcome, Forrest.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my God, it's a pleasure. We've become Atlantic-oriented here with your team. So why don't you start off, Jenna, with just telling us about your career path, how you started, your path at Atlantic. Give us the whole short of your life story.
Yeah, my life story. Well, so I've been at Atlantic for a little over 9 years now. I started out as an assistant of digital marketing on the pop rock side. And I've sort of worked my way up ever since. Prior to that, I worked at a small music publishing company called Verse Music Group for 2 years. That was my first job right out of college. I realized publishing was definitely not for me, which is fine. I definitely wanted to work more directly with the artists and, helping to figure out their social media strategy, even from 10 years ago, which has vastly changed. And we can go into that a little bit more in a little bit. I got a job opportunity at Atlantic Records. They were hiring a few different assistants at the time, and I jumped on that opportunity as soon as I heard it that they were doing that. Got the job, and I've been here ever since, and it's been awesome. And I love working at Atlantic, obviously, because I've been here for that long. And I love working with all of our artists, including Forrest, who we've been working together for the last few years. So it's been great so far.
Forrest, tell us a little bit about your trajectory, your career path.
Got to give the 30-second elevator pitch,
Start.
For me, I always tell people that I couldn't play or guitar or sing to save my life, so I really learned how to play guitar and sing to save my life. And it sounds a bit dramatic, but my upbringing and my starting point was pretty rough, and music wasn't even in my scope. I didn't even realize you could make music and you could become a musician. It was so detached from anything I knew. But I think, like every walking singer-songwriter cliche, I really, music kind of found me, and it found its way into me. And once that hit, I couldn't escape it. And it was the first time I'd ever felt any sort of affirmation for just being me and being expressive. So like being a big, tough kid from Montreal, and then all of a sudden I'm singing love songs and people are clapping and singing along. It's like, wow, this is something that is quite interesting. And then from there, you start with one fan who encourages you to keep going, and you like that feeling. And that's exactly what happened to me. I attached to that one feeling, and then that's led to today, where you get thousands of fans and you get to do this crazy thing called music, So obviously a lot more to go into than just that, but that's my solid 30 seconds.
That's great. That's a wonderful way to put it. So, we have lots of artists joining us tonight who are always seeking ways to, build and enhance their careers. So, Jenna, why don't you take us kind of on a general digital marketing journey, and, how you, whether it was Forrest or just in general, how you start off and take along the line of building a career in the social media following.
Yeah. So, I would say every artist who gets signed to Atlantic Records, I make them sit through a digital boot camp, as I like to call it, and where we literally go through every single platform one by one. And really, it's a conversation. It's what are you already enjoying and what are you good at? And then how can I jump in and help you be better at all of these things? And certain artists come in and they're signed, and some of them are younger, and so they really fully understand TikTok and are like, I don't ever want you touching my TikTok. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to even have a conversation about it. It's all good. I need your help with Facebook because I'm a 19-year-old and I don't understand Facebook because that's for old people, right? I have other artists who come in or have been signed for a while, and this TikTok thing is new. And so it's a new conversation that we're having with a lot of our artists, and have been for the last couple of years. So I think it's really, going platform by platform, saying why, you should care about each one. I think there is an audience on every single platform. Just because you may be a 19-year-old kid doesn't mean that you should completely ignore Facebook, even though it may not be the coolest platform. There are still tons of people who are utilizing it every single day. And then just because you're an older artist doesn't mean you can ignore TikTok. That's a massive platform and continues to grow and continues to be the, buzzword of the moment. And tomorrow there will be another thing that pops up that you're going to have to learn. The thing that I love about digital marketing is that there is something new every single day, week, month, that I do have to learn and then educate my artists on. And it's not the same thing every single day. And you have to sort of, as an artist, I think you have to be willing to roll with the punches of whatever the new thing is that people are jumping on. So right for this second, it is TikTok.
Do you find that some artists feel like you're making them have to wear a clown
Yes.
suit, one way or the other?
Yeah. I mean, I did, and I think that is definitely a big conversation that we've been having, and will continue to have, especially when it comes to TikTok, because I do think there is this weird sort of myth, I guess, around TikTok right this second, where people think that it's an app just for kids, or it's an app where kids just do these weird dances, or you have to be super funny on it in order to go viral, or you have to be a certain way. And that's simply not the case. That's what it was when it first started, for sure. And there's still obviously parts of that in the ecosystem of TikTok, but I don't think that that's all it is. And I think Forrest can attest to that, as he's definitely leaned in a little bit more over the last few months. And I think he now gets it, and he understands like what works and what doesn't work. And I also think it's something that you learn as you're on the platform too. It's not something that I can necessarily say, hey, this is the thing that's going to work for you, because I think every artist has to sort of live on the platform themselves and really try to understand what makes sense for their brand and their image, and what their sense of humor is, and what kind of content they actually want to create. It's sort of we have to sort of play this game together on TikTok, I think.
Forrest, why don't you talk to us about what role and the path Jenna's put you on from, I'm assuming, a neophyte or a startup in social media, and leading you. I heard that there was a TikTok post of yours that really went viral. That wasn't the one with you in the clown suit. Tell us about it.
No, I mean, so for me as the artist, Jenna wears a bunch of different hats actually. And I think it really starts with, there's a personal, whether, and this might not be the same for all artists, but there's a personal touch, there's a connection, and it starts with trust. So I need to trust Jenna to help me lean into things, because there's some certain insecurities that you're going to have as an artist. And when you come into, the ecosystem of a major label, their primary objective is to grow with you. Like they want you to get big, because then they see the benefits of that. So in order to do that, you kind of have to capitalize off of, not only your skill set, but you have to invest in all these new tools, because one or more than one will take off, and those things can really help you grow your audience. And that's where Jenna's role really comes in, because she knows that YouTube will help certain artists grow. She knows that TikTok will help a certain artist grow. She knows that those things, if they don't work for you, she knows how to go, okay, well, what about these and, these other places? So a good example of this, which was, by all means, it's not a failure, but at one point in time, we weren't having the same movement that we were all hoping for, and Jenna suggested maybe trying Tumblr. and it didn't work. It just wasn't a place. It had changed so much that the landscape may have been right 6 months prior to that, but at that point it's kind of like a dead system for an artist like me. But that's the whole point. Jenna's there sitting in the background going, how do I get this artist to connect with somebody? So another great example, where most people aren't even looking, Jenna is looking. She's kind of scouring the landscape, turning over rocks, going, I think your stuff can fit here. And she came up with, why don't we try out Pinterest? Pinterest does work, and Pinterest is blown up for a lot of people, but it's an unconventional place to put your stuff as an artist. You would never think, maybe my stuff should be on Pinterest. So again, that's kind of the benefit of having access to a Jenna in her role, because she knows all this. And then for me as the artist, there's kind of this is like two wolf kind of, analogy or metaphor of like you're trying to find a sense of how to fight your ego and also find humility. And part of it is, at least in my opinion, is remembering that you get up on stage to entertain. Now, whether that's really personal and a really intrinsic experience that people get to witness, or whether it's like what you're saying, Bruce, about kind of wearing the clown suit, both have their roles and both are very important. My whole thing is like, somebody's life is difficult or somebody's having a shit day. And I know that something that I do can make that a little bit better just because I'm here entertaining. I can be someone's moment. I can be like the soundtrack to their experience in this. So how can I put my music out in ways that allow people to see that? And not only that, but how can I show that there are more layers to me than just a guy with a guitar singing, love songs? How do I appeal to somebody who maybe that's not their forte? Like for instance, like I may not be Jenna's preferred music. Jenna grew up with punk rock and some of the coolest bands in the world. Like I'm sure she knows every emo band under the sun and can tell you who they all are. So for maybe Jenna's taste, maybe I'm not the most conventional artist that she would reach for in certain moments, but then she might find, laughter in something I do, or there's a curiosity then, which then leads Jenna back right to my music. And that's kind of this wonderful place as an artist. And so with that, like the hope is you with your guitar, like really leaning into yourself, and you're just so moody, and you said that love song so perfectly, and you put that on TikTok and that gets viral. Man, that would be the dream. Or sometimes it's you driving in your stupid Chevy Cruze on Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, ending up in a lowrider parade, and you have no business being there, and you just turn the camera on yourself and you just take the piss, my friends in the UK would say, just to have fun, and then put it out there and don't stop caring. Like, just that was funny, and then there, lo and behold, 2.5 million views later.
It's up to 2.7 actually now.
2.7 million.
Showing yourself as a person, not just the guy who stands behind a microphone.
Yeah, you become three-dimensional as the artist, and again, that goes right back to Jenna. Jenna's whole job is to try and find ways for us to become three-dimensional for fans. Every site, like with TikTok, your fans are built in, that the algorithm knows people who are fans of music. And so as soon as they're getting a little slow on the app and TikTok can sense they're about to jump off, they slam them with something they might like. So if someone's heard a Dermot Kennedy song or an Ed Sheeran song, and they see they haven't gotten one of those in a hot minute, and Ed's not doing the trick or Dermot's not doing the trick, I might be the next in the queue for the algorithm to go, well, here's something new. So you just got to be there. And one of my favorite things, like even with that lowrider TikTok, this might just be really good media training, but there's always a way to turn it back in. So yeah, the video that went viral isn't a viral video about me singing. It doesn't mean I don't have the opportunity to connect it to me. So immediately what I did for this is I dropped a comment on that video, knowing that most people would see it. I pinned that comment, and it was another poke at myself. And I said, I'm a platinum selling recording artist, but I will be known as the guy in the Chevy Cruze. And from there, I had hundreds and hundreds of people going, oh my God, you sing my favorite song. And I had no clue, because there's not an association with my face, especially having a hit song during a pandemic.
Good. I want to mention to our audience that we're going to take your questions. So please enter questions you want answered in the chat, and then we'll get to that shortly. So Jenna, we have a lot of, let's say, probably independent artists viewing tonight. So what kind of advice would you give an independent artist not signed to a major label, maybe not having a national touring base, or probably not having a national touring base? But Columbus is a very strong music city, and people here, we have lots of venues and a huge population that love music and frequent our venues. So, all right, I have really good music. I really am not an expert in social media and digital marketing. What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a few things. I think number one, just try being on TikTok. And if something doesn't go viral, that's okay. Leave it up. You never know. It could take a week for something to actually like kick off in the algorithm. That's number one. Number two, I would say just keep trying things. Something that may not work at first, you try the next thing that may work, and then you just keep trying and trying and trying. And the more that you live on the platform, the more you'll start to understand it. You won't get it right away, but it'll take a little bit of time, and eventually you'll start to get into a rhythm of what kind of content works for you. I would also say consistency is key. The more often that you post, the more regularly that you post, and this is across all socials, not just TikTok, the better off that you'll be, because then fans will start to follow you because you're starting to post on a more regular basis. If you are on YouTube, make sure that you're posting consistent content. I think one of the things that I try to get my artists to do off the bat is creating some sort of a content series. And so it could be cooking. You're super into cooking, great. Let's create a cooking show for you. We can have your music in the background, and that's something that you put up once a month. So every first of every month, there's going to be Cooking with Blakk on his YouTube channel. And so it can literally be anything. It doesn't have to necessarily be directly about music. If it is about music, maybe it's a weekly cover series that you do. I had an artist a few years ago who was trying to do more of a retro sort of vibe. And so every Sunday we called it Old School Sundays, and every Sunday we would upload a throwback cover basically from her, and it helped grow her channel a ton because we were just constantly putting out content every single week. And her fans started to, realize, oh, I need to check out that cover from Sunday. So I think, again, it's just consistency and coming up with an idea that is truly unique to you, and something that you can keep up with on a regular basis. It doesn't just have to be, one and done. It needs to continue to happen over and over and over again. I know that can be a little draining, but it is really important to keep your socials, including YouTube, active as you can. And then the third thing I would say is within your community itself. I think it's so important to, really build that community and network with other independent artists who are similar and writing music that's similar to yours. Because then you can sort of leverage each other's socials too. You guys can post about each other. You can do cover swaps. You can just do a bunch of different things on socials that, you might not be able to do with larger artists, but you have, your own network right here in Columbus. And I think it's a beautiful thing that you're able to, really meet people who are of similar sort of maybe artist size and similar artist genres, that you can really leverage off of each other and really grow together. And then you don't feel as alone, on this ship alone. You can sort of, work together and brainstorm ideas too. It's like this way you're not just trying to think, okay, well, maybe I think this is a good idea, but maybe it's a terrible idea. And you have sort of a someone to bounce it off of, or a few people to bounce it off of.
What about specific mechanisms of, with Instagram and communicating? Because I know that some artists don't really dig down deep and realize, oh, I can find someone who posted this video on YouTube, and and oh, this is how I get a hold of them, or I can direct message someone. So tell us a little bit about the use of Instagram and how you start to cross connect and build a network with people of like-minded sensibilities in music.
I mean, I think Forrest is a great example of that, honestly. Like I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, responds to every single DM he gets still. Is that, yep. To this day, you know, he's been signed to a major label for a few years now and he still does that. And I'm sure it's exhausting. But he responds to every single person who reaches out to him on Instagram, on Facebook, he's replying to comments himself, on YouTube, he's replying, on TikTok, he's replying. I mean, it's amazing how the level of connection that Forrest has with his fans. And I think that's why he's been able to grow as much as he has, is people genuinely feel like they're friends with him and want to see him succeed because they really, really, really care about him. Because they've just created this really nice connection that you don't necessarily get with a lot of other artists. A lot of artists will ignore you and will ignore the DMs and will ignore the comments. But I think putting in that extra mile and putting in that extra work to really reach out to your fans and really show that you care and they're not just another streaming number. It's actually, you care, that you want them to really know you and be a part of your story. I think that's so beyond important and will just create fans for life for Forrest and for other artists.
So you feel that right now TikTok is generally the most effective platform? Or again, we'll probably have artists out there that don't want to deal with TikTok. I know some artists that are really excellent. I said,
yeah.
do
I mean,
something innovative.
Yeah, I mean, the
Keep
thing
our
about
audience.
TikTok is the algorithm is just so insanely smart that it gives you the content that you're looking for. And because of that, you don't have to actually have any sort of following to start out with in order to potentially go viral or just have people view your video. Most other platforms, if you have 0 followers, you're going to get 0 views from the start. But with TikTok, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, really, because your content is going to get served to the right people from the beginning. So it's still maybe a small amount at first because TikTok is figuring out what kind of content it is that you're making. But eventually it will serve the content to the right people who will actually care about your content.
Okay, but I want to remind everybody viewing I see that we're taking some are in the Q&A section where some are in the actual chat. Let me ask our tech person, Thane, which one would you prefer them going into?
The Q&A one's good, but either is fine. We'll be able to read any questions that are on.
Okay, great. So right now, I mean, you say that the #1 platform and the #2 and the #3 platform for new artists are?
TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, maybe. Yeah, I would say those 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a few questions right now? Thane, would you read them off?
Yep.
And the first-
Aaron Pitcock asks, what bands or artists are doing the best job or are your favorite on social media today?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see. We have a band, Wallows. Their album is coming out this Friday, so I'm just going to quickly plug that. They're doing a really good job, I think. So I would check them out. Honestly, Ed Sheeran does a really good job, and he actually, if you ask him, he doesn't understand TikTok at all, but he has a team around him and just trusts us and knows, okay, that's going to be funny or that's going to be really good. And you know, there's some things that he says no to, but a lot of the times he'll just sort of do a content day and bang out a handful of TikToks in a row, and we'll just sort of schedule them out for him, and it works really well. So I think we've grown his TikTok account to, I think he's over 11 million now, in about a year. So, that's been awesome to be a part of. Who else does it really well? Maybe that's not an Atlantic artist.
I love John Legend for what he's doing.
Mm.
He's so like he's he's again, that's kind of British thing, but has to take the piss. He pokes a bit of fun at himself. Like he he'll take these trending sounds, and next thing you know, he's sitting at a baby grand piano singing them, and you're like, what is John
Yeah,
Legend?
that's true. He does a really good job. I'll also add another Atlantic artist, Charlie Puth. I think has become the king of TikTok. The thing that's really cool of what he does is he's been making his album, and in real time, he's sort of posting little snippets, and he's like, "What if I made a song that sounds like this?" And I think he's sort of taking his fans along for the ride as he's creating this new album, and it's just something totally different that fans are usually not used to seeing under the hood, really. And that whole creation of a full album. So he's done that with like 3 songs now from the new album, and only one has actually been released. So
That's very interesting because
yeah,
I personally think that artists have to be not unidirectional, that they have to have their people.
yeah,
And people, I believe fans connect with artists not just because of their music,
Mhm.
because of what they do and who they are. Thane, why don't we pop in another question?
Sorry. So, sure. Live streams. All right. Cameron Elkins asks, live streams were big during the pandemic, but social media channels quickly became oversaturated with them. Do you still recommend live streams for artists? He also asked, can you share any advice about promoting live streams, specifically for up and coming artists who are still building a following?
The live stream, that's a really good question. I've kind of gone back and forth on that a bit because a few of our artists have been like, oh, we should live stream this. I think it's helpful for artists who have an international fan base and may not be able to ever get to, name some country that you may never get to tour. So being able to share a live experience with fans who may not be able to ever come to your show, or may be able to once in a lifetime come to your show, because artists aren't able to go everywhere all the time. I think for that reason it's beneficial. One of my bands, we were talking about, possibly doing something for their album release. And I was like, but why would we, like, they're going on tour, why would we do that? And they were like, well, they have fans in like Alaska. We're never going to Alaska. We need to be able to. And I was like, yeah, that's a very good point. So yeah, I do think that there are still some benefits. I don't think you're going to get the same kind of audiences that we were getting, in the beginning of the pandemic, especially because at the end of the day, people are out and about again. But I do think that it is valuable in terms of just trying to expand your audience beyond maybe Columbus, where you're only able to tour right now or play shows right now. Maybe you aren't, able to get outside of Columbus because it costs a lot of money to tour. So just being able to, go beyond that, I think is super helpful. In terms of trying to promote it, I think running some paid ads tends to help. You can spend a very little amount in order to reach a pretty good amount of people on Facebook and Instagram, but I also think your creative has to be really good. So if you're going to run ads, make sure that it's a really, really great video of you performing live that would make people be like, oh, I need to go watch this. I need to spend my time and go watch this person perform, because, now you do have the competition of the outside world. It's not just like I'm stuck at home, so what else am I going to do tonight? So yeah, I think you need to try to make your show and your live stream a little bit more unique and really get that message across.
I find I hear from a lot of artists that I don't have time to devote to this. And, Forrest, is there, if you had if you weren't signed right now, how much time and what kind of timetable would you use for social media? Every single day, X number of, take one day? Please tell us.
Yeah, there's one thing I just want to add right before we get to that, though, for what Jenna's saying for that live stream question. Yes, live stream. That's my opinion. Live stream a lot. Live stream consistently, and set a day and a time where you can live stream once a week, twice a week, because much like your favorite television shows, fans will start showing up, and then they'll start telling fans. It's always going to be a bummer at the beginning, and it will turn into something. Furthermore, live stream like crazy on TikTok. TikTok has a live stream for you page. I've discovered so many artists just on that alone. It's a steady stream. People who look at TikTok like a social media platform completely miss the boat with TikTok. TikTok is the commercials between the television shows. It's just a commercial. It shows up. It's random. You don't have to like it. You don't have to love it. But if your commercial's good enough, you connect with somebody and they buy what you have to say. Everyone's been stuck.
Point.
Everyone's been stuck on an infomercial for shit they don't need. That's TikTok. That's exactly what TikTok is. Why people fail at it is because they're looking at it about themselves. Like, look at me, look at me. As TikTok wants to go, I don't want to look at you. Make me look. So if you think of it that way. So, but to your question, I got signed. I've been signed for 6 years. I work 100 times harder now than I did when I wasn't signed. And I worked hard when I wasn't signed. If I was back at square one today without having a label, and to be honest, like, I love the people I work with, but the label, it doesn't necessarily change my it didn't change my work. It didn't, except for make me work more. I just have a lot more to do. But if I would have been able to start now opposed to 15 years ago, I would be destroying everyone who's watching this today. I'm just going to outwork you. I'm watching what you're doing, and I don't care how busy I am or how busy you are. I'm going to make sure that I add at least a minute on top of your minute. If you're doing a minute of work, I'm doing 2 minutes of work. That's just how I've always been in my whole career. And I like to also work a lot smarter. I don't want to have to outwork for not the same amount of investment. So I'm trying to constantly trying to figure out what I can do that can level up my game. So yeah, I think that social media, look, TikTok is your TV, it's your commercial, and there's an infinite amount of people looking at your commercial. Learn how to make good commercials. And if you sit there and you're going, I don't want to, great, please keep that attitude, because that makes it easier for me to connect to those people. I would rather you not put your video out because I want my videos to shine through. So I've always been of that mind. And I can tell you that I'm not the guy with the most talent. All those people are the people still working day jobs. It was that I was just harder working, and I was willing to risk it all. Not that that's for everybody, so don't take that as the advice, but I was willing to put it all in and go, okay, what can I do to get to where I'm going to go? Because, you know, to be honest, those guys like Charlie Puth, they just touch a piano and they're just good. And you have to, that's what I have to compete against. And like, being a Canadian living in LA, I can throw a stone from my house and there's probably 1,000 amazing artists all better than me. And that's one of the wonderful things about TikTok, is that's what's happening, is these kids who never had an outlet or a microphone to sing into go, all right, I'm going to make my commercial showing off. And now it's like, you have to compete with a guy who can play 4 guitars at once. And you're like, oh my God, like, I'm just trying to learn how to do a bar chord. So again, it's like, with all that said though, something to consider is that it is, as much as I'm kind of making it sound like it's competitive, it's really not. Like, you don't have to compare to anybody else other than yourself. And I think what happens is people get bummed that they're not seeing the results. They don't change what it is that they're doing to find other ways to have results. They get stuck in one lane going, this isn't working, I'm going to quit. But then there's every now and then you see an artist that's willing to adapt. So I think it was the Stones who said it, man. Like, if you can't play to a room of 1, you don't deserve to play to a room of 10,000.
Really good.
Really good. There we go.
All right, let's take another question from our viewership.
Sounds good. Mark Abrams asked, do you use any social media management tools?
Yeah, we use Hootsuite a bit, but that's more so for, I would say more so when I'm using our Atlantic accounts. Because honestly, like, I don't post for my artists. It's, for the most part, it's my artists posting, or they have, you know, a digital person on their management team who helps them post. Like, for the most part, I'm not the one that's actually doing the posting. I used to do a little bit more posting, so I would use Hootsuite a little bit more. But yeah, for the most part, it's Forrest. He does all his posts. He doesn't let me touch his socials.
These two thumbs, man.
Yeah, it's me texting him being like, dude, you got to get the post up. But yeah. So I don't know, Forrest, I don't know if you use anything.
No, I literally
saying, hey, I need you to get this up.
nothing is automated.
Yeah.
Is there a best time to post?
That depends on the artist, honestly. Like, there are certain artists that have more fans that are ex-US, so you should post earlier in the morning. And then there are certain artists that have more fans that are here, right? So if you're a local Columbus musician, you should post in the, probably, I would assume, early afternoon to late afternoon, when people are, getting off of work and, getting out of school, putting kids to bed, whatever, age your fan base is. Yeah, it really sort of depends. It's kind of, especially with TikTok, I've asked them many times, like, well, is there a certain day or time? And they're like, everyone's on TikTok all the time. There isn't a good time, which is a really good answer. It's like people are on their phones 24/7 now. I'll even find myself, I'll be watching TV and I'll just automatically open my phone and go to TikTok now as I'm watching a show. And it's like, I don't even know why my brain does that, but it's just like an automatic thing right
They
now.
succeeded. Okay,
Yeah.
let's take another question.
Eric Moeller asks, how often should you be posting on TikTok? Once a day, multiple times a day?
I would say at least once a day. My friend Forrest over here posts sometimes 7 times a day.
It just depends on the content.
Yeah.
Again, like, I think with TikTok, you can post once a day or you can post once a week. You can post once a month. It's not going to change, in my opinion. I think if you're trying to convert fans, it's different. And that's something else to think about. I don't rely on my count on TikTok for anything. It means nothing. Every time you post, it's to a brand new audience. And I think one thing to consider is how you use these platforms as well. I'm not hunting down artists on TikTok. I'm not going for I don't care who I follow. What I care about is that For You page. I just want to be entertained by the commercials. So I think that's important to consider. So your little place in there, I think it helps if you're posting more often to create more following, more engagement. But I think ideally it's how you convert fans from TikTok to Instagram, Facebook, Spotify. And I think a lot of people forget your commercial has to have a call to action of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch the best Super Bowl commercial in the world, but at the end of it, what they do is they're telling you where to go to get the product they're selling you. So that's basically how I'm looking at TikTok. You have to have some sort of shift to get them back over. I will say though, what I've seen for people growing and myself is like, if you do post a few times, I would then activate a live stream, because what happens is your live stream may not be full. You might have 5 people, 10 people. It just depends. TikTok's algorithm does weird stuff, but you will have a constant feed of people going through. So you might have 8 people, but over the course of your 1 hour or half hour, 15-minute live stream, that could be hundreds, if not thousands of people. If for whatever reason they catch you, what they do from there is they go to your page, and then they'll interact with the video, which then puts you through the algorithm. So something to consider is how you're posting, what you do when you post, and then the classic, why are you posting? Like, what are you trying to get from these people? Because you're trying to present them something interesting. So hopefully that answers the question, but it's stuff to think about.
All right, Fang, let's have another one.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Brady Bear asks question, at what point is it important to have someone manage your social media for you?
Forrest and I argue about this all the time. I personally think it's helpful when you have a lot going on to give the reins to someone else a little bit. However,
I feel like I'm being spoken to right now.
However, certain artists really like having that control, and they feel like it is their brand and it's their face and it's their name, and giving up that control is a lot for them, and I do understand that. But I also think that there are certain times that you're in the studio recording and you should be focused on writing and recording your new stuff, and there is other stuff going on that we need to be able to post for you, which we do sometimes, once in a while. But I think it really is up to you at the end of the day, and like how much you're willing to let those reins go a little bit. And it's a trust thing also, of like whoever you do hire, like you do need to trust them that they're either gonna quickly run copy or the post by you, or that you just really trust them and that they're not going to post anything crazy. And you can just say like, yeah, it's okay. You can post whatever. It's all good. But it really depends artist to artist. There are certain, like I said earlier, there are certain artists that, I don't even have their TikTok or Instagram passwords because they're like, I don't ever want you in there. I don't want you touching it. I know what I'm doing and that's it. And then there are certain artists that I do go in and help them post every once in a while. So
We're talking to a lot of artists out there that don't have or can't afford to hire a professional person. I've always thought, and I'd like you to respond to this, how about engaging your fans to be, I always think your fans, the ones who love you the most, are really your promotion department.
Yeah. How
would you go about engaging your fans to help move along your social media and your marketing?
Yeah, I mean, you can easily, I think that is an untapped, sort of work base. I think leaning on some super fans that you've maybe, started to have a good rapport with, maybe putting it out there and just being like, hey, I need help with, my Instagram or my TikTok. If anyone's around the Columbus area, like, let's see if we can meet up and maybe have a conversation about it. And you never know. And then it could be some kid who's just trying to break into the industry also, who's in college and needs an internship, needs that experience for the resume or whatever, and they're willing to do it for free or for very, very cheap. And those are the kids that you want because they're the ones that are on those apps and platforms all day, every day. So, I think definitely leaning on people who are fans, because they also get your voice too, because they're following you very closely.
I look at it as for a young person or a fan to be given the opportunity to work for an artist.
Yeah, totally.
It's really special. Thane, let's go for another question.
Joshua Burton asks, do you have any suggestions about using social media for targeted local marketing versus trying to go viral, like more of like a wider net?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are, like, for me, for example, I'm based in New York, so I'm on New York TikTok all the time. I'm constantly seeing stuff that's happening around New York, and I assume, Forrest, you see a lot of stuff in LA because you live in LA. So I assume all of you who are in Columbus see a lot of stuff that's either Columbus or Ohio based or whatever. So I think looking at some of that content and seeing some of the hashtags that are being used and then using those hashtags in your post will help you to get your stuff on the Columbus For You page, and helping to promote your, like, if you have a show coming up or your, whatever. I think that sort of thing will help. Other than that, I think it's also back to what I said before of just connecting with other local artists who are in the scene. And again, leveraging each other's socials, because I assume they also have similar, fan base who are based in Columbus as well.
Thane, let's have another one.
Cool. I've got one that I just thought of. So Kanye West, in the past 2 months, is flown off the handle on Instagram and on all that. But he's grown by about 4 million followers. Do you see that as a marketing move? How do you interpret that?
I think everything he does is calculated personally. I think some of it he needs to get medicated, but I do think a lot of it is, he just put out an album and he's trying to sell his stem player. And he's trying to, he didn't put out the documentary, but he has a documentary out about him. So I do think a lot of the times when he does kind of go off the rails, it tends to be around a time that he has some other stuff going on in the market. I'm not saying that everything is super calculated, but I do feel like, people do like to watch a car crash. And unfortunately, he's definitely, someone needs to help him. I don't know, but that's
the 15 car pileup.
That's a whole other mental health issue.
We're getting a lot of questions. So Thane, come on, let's keep moving him on.
So Corey Michaels asks, what are your thoughts on growing markets like the LGBTQ?
We do a lot of LGBTQ marketing. We work with a couple of different groups who help to push our songs out to different gay clubs and stuff like that. We've done a ton of stuff with drag queens recently. We're putting out a whole new version of an Ava Max Tiesto's video using a bunch of drag queens. We have a ton of LGBTQ artists that we've signed too. So just obviously tapping into who they are and who they're proud to be also, I think is super important. And obviously, like, you know, we're very inclusive, you know, label, and we want to make sure that we're trying to, you know, hit everyone who might be a fan of these artists. So yeah. And honestly, like, especially on the pop side, like, that's how we break pop artists, and that's been that way for decades. That's never, you know, that's not a new thing.
Okay. Thank-
Corey also asked a secondary question. How do you grow in that way as an independent artist? Do you have any suggestions?
Again, I would try to find in that same, you know, way that you're going to talk to similar artists, find artists in that community too. If you yourself are an LGBTQ artist, you know, there's definitely a community for that. There's definitely a community for that in New York. I have artists who are part of that community, and they definitely lean on each other and you know, talk to each other for resources and trying to figure out, you know, can we do a showcase of some sort? I think it's just trying to find similar people and like-minded people.
Okay.
Great. So Mark Abrams asked, I personally feel that the time problem involved with social media is conceptualizing and creating content, not posting and engagement. What strategies would you recommend to plan out your social media strategy? And how much time do you put into this and with your artists?
Forrest, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think one, getting your content in shape is important. It also lets your fan base know that you know what they want. And so you package this, you put it out. I think once you put something out, there's part of letting it just do its thing. I think a lot of people get kind of hooked on the instant gratification moment or lack thereof, and then they fall apart or they succeed. So I think when you put something out, be mindful of like what's going on around it and engage with your community. I think it's really important to be proactive with people, especially if there's a call to action. You're showing that you're as interested in what you're asking of people, so they should be more interested. So like, for instance, on Facebook, when I make a post about, like, I put a post today going, where should I come play? And then I put my community number, which is a way for fans to actually text my phone. And everyone who's been texting me through the phone, I'm like just texting them back, being like, yeah, I want to go visit that place. Oh, and then I keep going down that rabbit hole with fans, and fans become friends. So I think to answer the question fully is just, there's no one size fits all. Find something that works for you that you can stay consistent in. If it's once a week and you know you can do that, do that. And if you know that when you post, you have an hour time to engage with people, just do that. If you could do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times and so on, then go from there. If you know it's not posts that you need to engage on typically, great, throw those up in the times when you don't have the time. So I think it's just about finding what works for you and then engaging with social media in a way that fits or suits your schedule. I'm not gonna be able to tell you anything about how to do it that you're gonna like.
We have an interesting question from Madeline Shirley. She says, I do public relations for a Christian rock band. Do you have any advice for me specifically how to promote them?
Yeah, find other Christian rock bands.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked a few Christian rock bands in my time at Atlantic. We had Skillet signed for a while. We had Need to Breathe, Forest Horde with Need to Breathe. Yeah, I mean, I think it's again finding the community. Like I know I keep saying that, but I do think it really that helps. And finding similar and like-minded artists and people who are into that. I think it matters because that's who you're trying to market to at the end of the day. So you want to steal fans, right? So it's sort of the same thing. Like that's we had Forrest go out with Need to Breathe, and he's not a Christian artist, but I think we stole some of those fans when he
tons. Yeah.
So I think it's just trying to find similar artists at the end of the day.
You mean you can't give
Go to a need to breathe post and go look at the comment section, interact with those fans, click on their pages. Again, I can't stress this enough. It's what you can do for those people. You're not known until you're known and you have that steady kind of like, fanship that's coming in. You have to hustle. You got to work a little bit. So like I propose this to every single artist that I talk to that's asking similar questions. Like make 10 fans a day in your community. So if you're in Columbus, Ohio, 10 fans a day. And if you don't have time to make 10 fans a day, get a day job. Don't do this. Get out. It's not going to work. So like find things within the community, find bands or people that like bands that are coming through, comment on their stuff, message them, go look at their lives, like just invest a little bit into them. If you make 10 fans a day over the course of a month, that's 300 fans. Find a venue like Natalie's or something like that and sell it out. Sell 150 tickets at 20 bucks a pop. You can have a totally great career for the rest of your life. And you can do that in every market. If you got a tour that goes in and around Ohio, where you're hitting all the major markets or sub-markets in Ohio, do that to all those communities. Check the hashtags of those cities, go and like people, just engage 10 a day. You can do that in 20 minutes in a day. You will make great money. You will create fans because if you get one person to come to your show, they're likely bringing another friend. It's not that complicated. And trust me, if you do that, you'll create real fans. And
I'll
people
also add to that. I had an artist before he was signed to Atlantic. He had signed to another label. They dropped him, and so then he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. For a while, the way that he was sort of sustaining his fan base and creating more of a fan base was he would go and find artists like Shawn Mendes, for example, and literally busk outside of his shows when he was coming into town. And he would just perform for people who were waiting online to get into the venue. And he would hand out business cards to every person in line who was, actually paying attention to him. And that's how he started to create a fan base online. And then he also, similar to Forrest, would respond to every single DM he got, every comment he got. And so it's also doing things like that. I mean, it sounds crazy, but like it worked. He got people, he was talented, the music's good. And people were just waiting online bored. So they started paying attention to this kid with his little guitar. And all of a sudden it started to gain traction online. And that's how we at Atlantic found him and signed him. Yeah.
I think it's important also not to be casual about what you post. Probably better not to post than to post something mediocre. I always say that the goal is not to get a A+ in mediocrity. So, less is more if it's great. We have a question from Kyle Spears. He says, I'm using an app called Flick to manage my band's Instagram. The analytics are nice to keep track of everything. How important are the rankings of hashtags? And what does that mean in your opinion?
I don't think that necessarily matters, especially not on Instagram as much. Maybe a little bit for the Discover page, but I think it matters more on TikTok than it does on Instagram. Just because the discoverability on Instagram is just not as easy on it, quite honestly. So I wouldn't put too much into that. I would focus more on trying to connect with people who are commenting on your posts, DMing you, and then also finding similar accounts and artists and commenting on their posts and trying to connect with them.
Okay. Thane, any more you want to read there?
Yeah, we got a couple good ones. So Joshua Burton asks, this is mostly covered current platforms. What platforms do you see as fringe or possibly like the next thing?
I think Twitch is, it's not the next big thing. It's been a thing, but I do think Twitch will continue to be a thing. I hate saying buzzwords, but the metaverse is going to be a thing. We're definitely talking about it more and more internally, trying to figure out what the strategy is going to be. I don't think we're there quite yet. But I would, start to do some research into that, because I feel like within the next couple of years, we're all gonna, be avatars and not living in real life anymore. And it's gonna be like the movies.
How do you really feel?
I think it's cool. I do think it's really cool, but I think, it's definitely, it's like the movies. It's like we're in a sci-fi thriller. The robots are really taking over. And then I would say those are the two big things. And then I think Forrest touched on it a little bit. We work with this texting platform community. And I think that has been a really cool way for our artists to connect with fans outside of social media. And it's something that they actually own. Whereas, Instagram can go away tomorrow, TikTok can go away tomorrow. Being able to collect data from your fans and actually be able to talk to them regularly beyond social media. So whether that's an email list or texting platform, I think that's super important too.
Okay. I guess some of the artists would probably love to find some sort of information or where they could find basically a handbook online. Is there anything like that exist? I guess you could Google best practices in social media.
I mean, I got a good answer for this if you want.
Please.
Just go look at people who are doing it. They are the handbook. If you don't know what to do, find someone, take a look at their profile, and let's say they have 100,000 followers. Just follow them and watch what they do for the next 30 days. Check out their growth. Just invest in those communities. Get a good handle on what other people are doing, so that way you're not sitting there trying to reinvent the wheel. And you'll come up with answers. Like I know that for the most part, every young woman on TikTok just trying to grow as a personality, they're doing about 4 posts a day and a live stream about 20 minutes after they do those posts. And I've watched they've grown by like 50, 60, 70% in a month. So, I think just, watching what other people are doing and then just mimicking it, copying it.
Interesting. Someone asked, or basically it wasn't even a question, they made a statement about constantly trying to update photos and anything visual, I guess, on their website and other platforms. Do you agree that that's important?
To constantly update?
Photos. He said, I'm constantly trying to update my photos, etc. I'm continually creating posts and content. They want to know if that's a good practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's never harmful to have things. I mean, I posted a video today that I made 6 years ago. So like, you can dive into content constantly. I don't know if it was Gary Vaynerchuk who said it, but and I don't like to kind of hang on the things that everyone on the internet's saying, but what would you do if you had a film crew around you all the time? And until you can afford it, you got one, it's your phone. And, I think some people are content creators and others are vloggers. Really is what it's come down to. Like you're either showing them a view into your life or you're showing them things that are like kind of commercials in a sense.
Forrest, I want to give you an opportunity to basically
be careful.
Plug your music and your socials. Give us how to find you, where to find you, or anything else you want to do.
There, I just texted in here. You join my community. Text 310-496-3464. This is an ongoing conversation. I'm an artist, I'm a person, and 3 years ago I was living in the back of a car in Los Angeles trying to figure out how to do things because my life fell apart. Every day I'm doing the same thing that all of you are doing. We're just trying to figure it out. And it's not a major label that's going to change that for you. It's you who's going to change it for you. Jenna doesn't come and say, Forrest, you should make this. She might have some ideas to go, hey, these are things that could work for you. Are you interested? But really, it's up to me. I'm the artist. I have to try and tell my story in my voice. And if you want to see what that looks like, find me under Forrest Blakk, like my name says right here, and see what I do, and you'll hear my voice. I'm not the guy who can be a whiz kid on guitar. I'm a rhythm guitar player. I'm not going to sing like a songbird like everybody else, but what I am going to do is I have a very unique way of telling my stories and making you feel something because they're real for me. Everything I say is about me and about my life and the crap that I went through, and here I'm translating it to a way. And so I'm some people's flavor, I'm other people I'm their allergy. But I think that the truth is, like, see how I do my artistry and come join in. But then also you'll get to see that I'm just like you, like I'm multifaceted trying to tell stories. I love this. I live it, man. I love going from band to fan, from fan to friend, from friend to family. My fans have shown up for me like crazy over my course of my career. When things have fallen off and the wheels are all but gone, like they are there. I really honor that. Every kid that's messaging on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, I am messaging back because at one point I was that 15-year-old kid trying to talk to bands. It just means so much. I'm like, damn, what a cool experience. So yeah, I mean, I dropped my number, send me a text if you have more questions. Be my friend. And when I come through Columbus, come hang out at the show because I'm the weirdo artist. And at the end of the show, we'll probably end up in a diner in Columbus. I'll bring my guitar. We'll sing some songs. You sing some songs and we'll talk about this stuff again. And maybe next time you'll be the one teaching me about the metaverse or something.
But by the way, it's like he's not the weirdo artist. That's what all artists should do, honestly. And
I
like
agree.
he's just really good at it. That's it.
You know, when I was coming up in the business, you had a real hope that you'd spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, audience, making a record. The record company would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing and independent radio promotion, and it would all get pushed into a funnel where just a few tastemakers would be in the position to either push your career or stifle it.
Yeah.
Now, with social media, you don't need anybody. There is no filter. You're your own promotion person. And most labels I speak to, they don't want to just sign an artist based on their talent. They want to sign artists who aren't just saying to the label, hey, you just do the job. They want to see artists that are invested in themselves. And another thing to consider is labels pay a lot of attention to people who are making noise on social media, Spotify streams, et cetera. And the reason they do that is because you're showing that you're already market tested, that their investment in you is a good bet. And so it's so important, if you want to really push your career, to invest the time and take the advice you're being given right here. Roll your sleeves up, sleep a little less, get up earlier, whatever it takes, but be your own promotion person. Just making the music in this day and age is not enough. I wanted to also just tell you, while we're still online, is that go to musiccolumbus.com. That's our website. We have all kinds of benefits. It's free to register, like all our events. We'll send you a real nifty membership card. And we have, people like Bell Audio and Donato's Pizza and a handful of other local stores and businesses that will give you discounts. And you'll also be able to hear about our programs, and we do a lot of special stuff. I just want to thank Jenna and Forrest for joining us, and the Greater Columbus Arts Council for being our main supporter, and Thane and Olivia, who are behind that Music Columbus logo, for all their hard work. So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
It was
Take
fun.
care of yourselves. Don't forget musiccolumbus.com.
Thanks so
night.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Take it easy.